If you found this podcast, chances are you're a high achiever and you're successful. But now you're stuck and stressed, and you realize that everything you've created hasn't given you the fulfillment and the joy you thought it would. This is where we discuss the keys of high performance mindset and stepping into the next best version of yourself. Welcome to the Positive Persistence Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Positive Persistence Podcast, where we bring you stories to inspire you and strategies to help you tap into your potential and become your best self. Today, we are joined by a man who, by all counts, has lived many lives. He's been a hell-raising thug, getting into bar brawls for fun, an actor in some of your favorite soap operas, a model for brands like Dolce & Gabbana. He's been a celebrity bodyguard. He's a fitness coach of 30 years who has trained some of the biggest stars on the planet, a contestant on an extreme reality show, and he's also spent time wondering if he would survive a crippling disease that landed him in the hospital, paralyzed from the neck down. He's now a 2-time author and speaker, but I'm sure his favorite title is Dad. John Petrelli, welcome to the show.
Wow, the Triple P podcast. That was probably the best intro I've ever had, and especially how you landed on Dad, because that is so true. That is my favorite title, brother. That's
awesome.
Very thoughtful. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us on the show, John. I am so excited to get into this conversation because in reading this book, man, I was talking about before, it is a page turner. Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer. I didn't know what to expect. I knew a little bit about you before I started reading the book, but after reading the book, I was literally enthralled to find out what happened next in every section of the book. And there are so many questions that I have for you because you have such an amazing story. I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to do my best. So, in the intro, I talked about you being a hell-raising thug who looked for trouble, literally. And you have transformed your life and your person into something totally different. But I was hoping that you could put us into the mindset, for those of you who have not read John's book, put us in the mindset of you at age 15, 16, where you just had all of this pent-up rage and hostility. And if you could share with us briefly where that came from. I guess in short, telling us a little bit of your life story as a youth and how you came to be that violent young man.
It's a great question, Ian. In the short term, I was lost. I was scared. I was lost. And I found an identity in violence. I found an identity because I had lost my identity as an athlete. I was 4'11" as a freshman in high school, and I had done well in athletics up to that point. And then everybody went through a growth spurt, and I was 4'11" as a freshman. And the only thing worse than a 4'11" freshman is a 4'11" sophomore. And so everybody surpassed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a 4'11" sophomore trying to play basketball.
Yeah, great choice, by the way. Great choice. No one had the whereabouts to go, hey, maybe you want to go out for something that doesn't require height.
Right.
And then I got my growth spurt, but I think it all really stems from, and I try to really work on this, and it ties into what you had said earlier in my intro, Dad. My dad and I had a challenging relationship, and he used the tools he had to the best of his ability. My dad was born in 1921. He grew up during the Depression. He didn't have a father. His father had a second family that they were unaware of. Yeah. And he found out later, and he turned and went into the military at 18. So the military was his father. And he was in World War II, he was in Korea, and he was in Vietnam. And my dad saw a lot of things that he never spoke about. And I didn't know what PTSD was. We didn't even talk about that. But he would wake up in the middle of the night with night terrors. Mm-hmm. And we never had conversations about any of that. It's a long way about saying that during that time with my dad, he didn't express emotion. And I never heard him say, I love you, until I was 21 and he never called me son. It doesn't mean he didn't love me in his own way, and doesn't mean he didn't see me as his son. But we didn't have that tenderness that I believe is an important part of development of a male, of a human being. And I was always just trying to get his approval. I was always just seeking that approval, seeking that attention, and I couldn't do it. And it festered in anger inside of me. Like I never felt like I was good enough. I felt like I was such a failure, especially when I started not making the sports athletics anymore. I lost that identity. And so it's a long way of saying, I was really lost. I was trying to find my identity. And after I'd gotten into a couple fights, I started getting attention from that, almost like love and an identity from that. And I was like, oh, this is who I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm getting attention for. If I do more of this, I got more attention. And it was a scary road to go down because at the end of all of it, I was just a scared kid on the inside that didn't know how to express myself or have the tools or the self-confidence to express myself.
And there are so many parts in this book and in your story where I draw parallels into my own life, knowing what that's like. My father and I did not have a great relationship either, and it was very few and far between, if ever, if I heard I'm proud of you. And you're always seeking that affirmation, from this father when you're a young man, a boy, from your father, this father figure, the person that you look up to, the person that's supposed to be your Superman, the person that you are striving to become. And all you want is for them to say, I see you. I'm proud of you. But you don't receive that. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And as you say now in recollection, knowing what you know about your father, and you can say he didn't know how to express himself, or, he didn't know how to show you love in the way that you wanted it. You don't know that when you're 10, 12, 13, right? You have no idea. So I'm curious to know, like, when you were at a crossroads in your life as an adolescent, getting into fights, getting into trouble, going in and out of jail, and potentially sometimes facing worse, how did you pivot away from that? And what advice would you have for our listeners and our viewers that might be struggling to find a way out of their negative situation, which for some of them feels that is their identity? That's, again, how they garner respect. That's how they garner attention. That's who they believe they currently are now.
I used to feel like I was trapped in a certain identity. I felt trapped, and that trap made me angrier, right? I felt ashamed. And I also felt alone. Like I didn't know other people felt this way.
Mm-hmm.
I felt alone in that, and shame and being alone and isolated is not a great combination. I don't know if there was any one particular bolt of lightning that got me out of it, but I do know that there was like 3 or 4 simple steps that did get me out of it. And one of them for me was my peer group. One of the best things that ended up happening to me in hindsight, not at the time, but in hindsight, I was only accepted to one college would take me. It's because they had to. It was a community college. They had to accept everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of my peer group, who I didn't have the self-confidence to say no to a bad idea or just went along with the crowd, and it kind of fed upon itself, they went off to college. I had just gotten arrested. I was potentially going to get charged with manslaughter for someone that I had kicked. They had cracked their head open on a curb. Thank God that didn't happen that way. And when I left that jail cell, when I had gotten out, I was at a crossroads where I was going to school and I had to make a decision. I was actually on accident enrolled into criminal justice in school. I just checked a box and had criminal charges against me. And so, man, I'm a passionate guy. And I was literally thinking, I'm either going to be the best criminal or I got to go in the other direction. And thank God there was one individual, a guy named Tom Lanahan, who was the head of the criminal justice department. I was doing my best to study. It took me maybe a little bit longer than other people to grasp concepts. I didn't know I had dyslexia. I didn't know I had ADHD at all that time. I just knew that, man, I was trying hard and it seemed like I wasn't producing.
Mm-hmm.
So I started burying myself in the books. I started burying myself in the gym. And he made a simple announcement one day, Ian. He said, anybody that wants to get extra credit that'll go towards your final grade can come to my office after school and help with some filing, and that'll go towards it. So I was like, one more chance to stay out of trouble. I'll do that. I go and knock on his door. Lo and behold, I'm the only person that shows up. And this Tom was not only the teacher, but he was a criminologist for the local police department. And I never got a chance to ask him this, but it was either part of his intuition, or maybe it's part of his job, or maybe his job was that because of the intuition. But about 20 minutes in, he said to me, he goes, John, I really respect that you're here. I like you as a student. I only got to know you a little bit, but I feel like there's something about you that you keep hidden. And it was, I had been arrested and I was so ashamed. And back in the day, if you didn't see it on the news or you didn't read it in the newspaper, you wouldn't have known that I was waiting to go to court or whatever. And so I broke down and told him. And I said, listen, I'm in criminal justice and I got to go to court in 2 months and face the judge, and I don't know what's going to happen. And he said a key thing to me, Ian. He said, I don't know who you used to be when you got in trouble, but I know who you are right now. And you're the only person that showed up for extra credit. And he goes, I know what you can be. I mean, it hits me to my core. He saw something in me when I didn't even have the vision to see it. And I don't know, Tom has passed away. Man, by the way, I get emotional with this, but he's passed away. And I don't know the answer to this, but in my heart, I do. I know he probably talked to the judge and said, give this kid a chance. He's doing well in college. He's in criminal justice. And the judge did. The judge gave me a second chance and gave me a charge of a conditional, and I had to stay out of trouble for a 6-month period of time. But it was one individual that made me change my perception of who I could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you sponsored by Kleenex? Because I need a Kleenex.
Man, I appreciate you being real, because, that's what this is all about, right? Why we do podcasts, why we do interviews. It's about making that connection with another individual and finding out like what they've gone through. What are the experiences that they've had in life, and sharing that fabric of humanity. I think that is something that's so important that we do. And that's one of the reasons that I do this podcast, is to help people realize that they can achieve some amazing things if they believe in themselves. And by having guests on the show that are from different walks of life and that can really expound upon that through their own experiences, the more that we hear it, the more that we're going to start to believe that maybe I can do that too, or maybe I can be amazing too. And hearing, where you've come from, and I'm not going to tell your story for you, but going from that John, who fast forward now is now living on the other side of the country as a young man, if we can make that jump in your story from leaving, and what we're talking about is you grew up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And we're now leaving there and finding ourselves in sunny California. How does that happen? How does 18-year-old John Petrelli, 20-year-old John Petrelli say, you know what? I'm going west. Head west, oh man.
Yeah, I'm going to head west. I had to head west because the story is Tom helped change my perception. I had such a harsh perception of who I was, and he at least planted a seed that I could be something else.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I think sometimes you're a coach, right? We may see something in someone that they don't believe yet. And that's what was happening to me. He believed I can be something greater than I was at that moment,
mm-hmm.
right? And he was sitting outside of it. So he started giving me a forgiving, loving perception of myself. And it took a long while for me to embrace it. It wasn't like he had a magic wand, but he did plant that seed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had a 6-month conditional. and I stayed out as much trouble as I could, but I wasn't strong enough. And it's not my friend's fault. It was my fault. But when I got back into the group, we got into another huge fight and several of them. And I started realizing I wasn't strong enough to avoid the peer pressure. And I had to remove myself from the environment, not just, and that means geographically, that meant relationship wise, that meant everything. And there was a final thing where we got into a fight, and there was a drug dealer that we got into a fight with. And he made a statement at the end of the fight when the cops came that the next time he sees us, he's going to kill us. And I had no other alternatives. I had $500 to my name. I had a duffel bag with my clothes in it. And I called a dear friend of mine who wasn't a dear friend at the time, but we were friends. And I was like, man, I got to get out of my neighborhood. I have to leave. I just know in my heart that I'm going to end up in jail or I'm going to end up hurting someone. Something's going to happen. And he was kind enough to go, I'm living with my uncle. There's no rooms here, but you can sleep on our floor and you can come and move out. And I left the comfort of my home. I left the comfort of my family, who I love dearly. I left the comfort of everything I knew to go to the unknown. And it was like a weight was lifting off of me. I got a ticket on Northwest. I don't even think that airline's around anymore. And I could feel the pressure and the weight coming off of my soul as the miles were going underneath me on the airplane. And I started a whole new future. And I moved to California with another individual that changed the course of my life, another mentor, another teacher. And he wasn't a perfect human being. He had his own problems. He had addiction problems, but to me, he was a savior, and his name was Uncle Jimmy. He wasn't my uncle, but I called him Uncle Jimmy because he acted like uncle to me, and he gave me a future. And I slept on the floor, and I said, "Man, this is this. I got to make this now." I kind of put in my mind that nothing was going to turn me around, no matter what happened. I didn't know what it was I was in for. I didn't know the challenges, but I said, I have to do everything I can to not turn back and go back to my old ways. And that's how I got to California, man. By the way, that's the longest I've talked without taking a break, bro. I'm glad you could be part of that.
I'm here for that, John. I'm here. There are, and I want to continue on with your story, but there are so many parts in this book that, I have underlined, dog-eared, and that I wanted to just ask you about because they hit me, and I just, thought it was just so poignant. And one of those is that, kind of to pick off what you were talking about, and this is in part 3 of your book, and you say that if you surround yourself with people who lift you up and want you to succeed, if you change your mindset, and if you're willing to put in the work day in and day out, you can do anything. And what you just said brought me to this part of your book as you were leaving that environment, coming into a new environment, brand new. You didn't know anybody, but your buddy was there. What was that environment like for you? Did you have those kind of people around you that were going to lift you up to help you succeed? Because at this point, you're what age?
I'm 21 years old.
21 years old. So by all counts, you're wet behind the ears and you get out to Cali. What was the environment like for you then?
Yeah, so I had those people, but I didn't know I had those people. They appeared through, I went into, my whole thing was I want to become a trainer. I had 2 years of education of college and I wanted to become a trainer. We're going way back to the 1990s. There was like one certification in the United States to be a trainer. So I started studying for that. I was a bouncer at nighttime. I was working like, 8, 9 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. Then I'd get up every day and I would work landscaping for Uncle Jimmy. He owned a landscaping company. I would mow lawns, dig ditches. I would knock on doors when you could knock on doors. Right. And people wouldn't shoot you. And I'd be like, we're working in the area. We're doing landscaping. Would you like a bid? And then in the middle of the day, I would study. I had this textbook, a big textbook from American Council on Exercise. And I would study. And I just repeated that over and over and over I didn't give myself an opportunity I filled all my minutes with stuff that was either making a living, studying, working out. And I just did that day in and day out until I was ready to take that test. And I remember driving to San Diego State University. And I was like, why did I not go to college here? I mean, this is like, you see it in a movie. There was snowdrifts and I'm walking through snowdrifts in upstate New York. And I'm like, there's girls carrying surfboards here. Why did I go here?
Right.
And I took the test and I thought I was going to help people as a trainer. And I inevitably did.
Mm-hmm.
But I got back 10 times what I gave my clients. They championed me. They took me in as family. They gave me advice, even when they didn't know they were giving me advice. They showed me through their actions on what it's like to be a good human being, to be compassionate. And I did help them on their journey physically, but they really guided me through so many things and shared little nuggets with me. And as I started surrounding myself with clients, that were business people, and I would inquire, how did you get successful? How did you start your business? Just being inquisitive. My life is now filled with things that were absent before. Before it was filled with violence and it manifested more violence. Before it was filled with people that would give me bad ideas and I would accept them. Now it was people that would question things that I would bring to the table or give me advice and add and interject. And so I started becoming a byproduct of those people I was caring for, and they were caring for me. And man, Uncle Jimmy also held me to high standards. He expected a lot out of me, and he wasn't a perfect man. I don't believe we have perfect human beings. I don't know of anybody that's perfect. Right. But in his own way, man, he brought me to God. He brought me to faith. He brought me to having faith in myself. So there was a lot there. And if you fill your minutes with things that are going to enrich you academically, mentally, spiritually, physically, and you get that enrichment every day, you will be a byproduct of those things that are feeding you.
Right. So all what you're paying attention to. Right. So the things that you are putting your focus on, pouring into yourself, making yourself a better human. For sure. I have a question for you. So you talked about you became a certified personal trainer.
Yeah.
And reading the book, as the title says, eventually you start training some celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into this circle. And having worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment, I'm just curious, what are some of the common struggles that you observed among your clients? And because as you said, there is no perfect human. And as we mere mortals look at these stars, in the entertainment industry, and we look up to them and we idolize them and we think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, they are humans after all. I'm just curious, what are some of the common struggles you saw from some of your clients in terms of, did they have any belief issues in themselves, even though from the outside it looked like they had it all made?
That's a great question. I feel that when we say we have this commonality. I don't care if you are a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, or a movie star. We're all human beings. I do believe that, unfortunately, I guess there's two sides of the coin. It's fortunately and unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Now today more so than when we were younger, but everything is now under a microscope, right? If the things that I don't want to assume anything, but maybe you have made some mistakes in your past too, and I know I did, and if it was all videotaped and recorded, I probably wouldn't be here today, right? So our kids today, our society is held under a microscope and a different standard. And unfortunately, sometimes it's like there's no going back from things, right? Mm-hmm. That has been happening for a long time in celebrity in Hollywood. And so if you or I, let's take the physical part of it. You or I get out of shape, right? It's not a big deal. Not too many people, the people that are in your immediate circle may know that or whatever. And then you come back around and you're in shape or whatever. But in that microscope and that microcosm of Hollywood, it's for everyone to see.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's added pressure on top of that. There's added pressure of am I getting too old for this, right? Is there not a demand for this anymore because I'm aging out of a certain category?
Mm-hmm.
So there was that pressure. And for me, it was eye-opening to, you read the book, you know that some of my childhood stars broke my heart. And I found out, like, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. And sometimes we're not the nicest person. But also some dear friends that I have, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to put them out there on blast, but people that you know and have seen and have gone, holy cats, man, that person is amazing. I've had the blessing of seeing them maybe in some of their weakest moments. And I've had the blessing to be able to sit there as a friend and go, okay, right, let's take this one step at a time. It's not that bad. We can work through this. And in some particular instance, like, okay, let's really break this down. What you're thinking, I think their perception of themselves was not a reality. Like, not good enough, not good looking enough, not handsome enough, not sexy enough. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding? Let's really break this down in reality. And I had to have some hard conversations and go, you got to have this belief in yourself. And if you want to project that, right, on screen to other people.
Right.
And we're all human beings. We're all fallible. And it is a common thread that theirs is just amplified.
It's time to ask yourself, when was the last time you prioritized you? Did you know that research shows that nearly 85% of high performers struggle to maintain a performance mindset while juggling the demands of work and personal life? Those who actively prioritize their performance mindset and personal growth are 30% more likely to achieve their goals in business and life. If you're feeling crippling stress and anxiety, or if you're feeling guilty when you take a moment for yourself, or if you're stuck in the grind and feeling burnt out, you're not alone. Many of us yearn for more, but struggle with the fear of being judged or feeling selfish. And you want to step into the next best version of yourself. That's why I created the Rinse Method, which got me from paraplegic to marathon runner. Backed by science-based proven strategies and now customized for high performers like you. If you're stuck and stressed and want clear steps that you can implement today to move forward, make sure you visit thepositivepersistence.com to download our free Rinse PDF. So as you mentioned, we're all human beings, and just like those superstars, are us everyday Joe and Janes have those limiting beliefs, just like those stars you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For you, in your experience, where do you feel that those negative thought patterns or those limiting beliefs come from? Or at least for them, for your clients, where do they stem from?
You know, I think so many come from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So many come from our childhood, that imprint of our childhood. There was one time a dear friend of mine and client came in, and he was up for like a third audition on a major blockbuster movie and wanted to get like a last workout in, and we're going to hit there. And he was so frantic because he felt like he wasn't good enough to go in and needed to be sharper in image and sharp. And I was like, you know what? We're going to go outside. We're going to sit down. There's nothing we can do in this next 45 minutes that's going to change anything of you going into this office at MGM here in an hour. You have everything you need. You have everything you need. And you're going to solve a problem for them. They're looking for you. They want you to be great. They want you to come in that room and solve the problem for them of who their action star is going to be. And you have that already. So let's just enjoy this hour together. Let's just calm down. Let's breathe and know that everything that you need is already within you. And I feel like that is so true for everybody. We get these imprints that maybe not the greatest sometimes from childhood, and we carry them around, and we feel like you verbalize this, that you felt you weren't good enough, or you weren't enough, or you weren't seen. I've felt that way. And so as coaches, as mentors, which we all are, all human beings have the ability to be a coach, a mentor, a leader. I see as part of our duty to go to our fellow human being, our fellow brother, our fellow sister, and go, hey, you are enough. Whatever you are in this moment right now, even though you may not feel you're enough, you are enough, and you're aligned perfectly of where you should be. It doesn't mean we're not going to make progress. It doesn't mean that we're not going to put work in to continue to improve, to educate, on every aspect of our life. We're going to do that. But know that right now in this moment that you are okay where you are. And I've heard somebody else say this, we're perfectly imperfect. And I love that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I forgot the question you even asked me, bro. I don't even know the question you asked me anymore.
You answered it. You said, like, I was wondering, like, where did those celebrity clients, where do you think that their insecurities stemmed from? And you answered it, and you think it comes from childhood. And I think that's right. I think that's, for so many of us, that's where we have to track those negative thought patterns, those negative loops back to, is a lot of it stems from our childhood. And we have to really do a lot of work, and having a coach is so instrumental in helping someone break that negative loop of defeatism and help them start to believe in themselves. And being, and for those of you out there who are not in the fitness industry, being a personal trainer, being a fitness coach, at least, and I'll just speak for myself, has been one of the most rewarding jobs. And it's the best job in the world, because you literally help somebody go from the worst that they've been to help them achieve things that they never thought were possible. And you get to watch that person grow through this experience into having more confidence in themselves, into standing up a little bit taller after a workout, and they accomplish something they've never done before. And they're sticking their chest out a little bit when they leave you. And that positivity then ripples through everybody else that they come in contact with that day. That positivity is like a pebble in a pond, and those waves of positivity just radiate off that person because of something you helped them achieve that they didn't think were possible, which for me is the definition of a coach, is helping somebody get to a place where they couldn't get themselves. And there's so much joy in that. And when you get to see that person's face and their demeanor change, and they have that transformation, that is just, that's the best feeling.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
and I know for you specifically, you let me know before we talked a little bit before this, that you work with people that have been disabled, or you worked with some people that had some disabilities. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I've worked with some clients that have had some issues. Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing for me. I've had a few clients that had some major physical challenges like that, and to see them and the gratitude, it makes it easier to get up so early in the morning, because your life gets fulfilled.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling. Absolutely. For sure. Well, let's segue, right? That's perfect. Let's segue into disabilities and having some physical restrictions. Because in the book, you go through a very colorful life of becoming an actor and a model and doing some work on soap operas and some print ads and modeling for Dolce & Gabbana. Like, wow, okay, John is doing some things. And being on a celebrity extreme real life TV show and all of these things. And then you have what I'm going to guess is one of your toughest battles in life, and you're diagnosed with GBS. I didn't know what that was, so I would assume that a lot of people probably don't know what that is. I was hoping you could break that down for us and tell us how that part of your life transpired, and maybe we can extrapolate some of the lessons that you learned from that experience.
Yeah, will do. I'll tell you this, that happened in 2021, 2022. I was rehabbing in 2022. It happened at the end of 2021. I got Guillain-Barré Syndrome. It's a rare autoimmune disorder. I had no idea. I'd never heard about it before. But everything that you had touched on, or we got in a little bit more in depth, that happened before that I saw as a failure, that I saw as a challenge, really prepared me for the toughest moment of my life. If I had grown up and I never had any scars, or I never had any mistakes made, I probably wouldn't have survived or definitely wouldn't have had the same outcome I did when I got paralyzed.
Mhm.
It was all those other things that I saw as the tough moments that I was able to lean upon to go, okay, I maybe haven't been paralyzed before, but I've been here, I've been there, I had this happen, and it gave me resilience
Yeah.
that if I didn't go through all those bumps and bruises and scars, when I'm laying by myself in isolation and it's just my mind and my thoughts and my physicality's gone and I'm in the ICU, I might crumble. And we know, right? We know that our mind controls so much of our outcome.
Mhm.
They have placebo tests for medication for pharmaceutical companies. They actually give people just a placebo pill with sugar water or whatever. And we see scientifically that a big portion of the people that receive the placebo also manifest some of the positive side effects of the actual medication because they believe they're getting the medication. So, what would have happened to me if I only had negative thoughts when I'm laying by myself in isolation? I would have deteriorated. But I knew that I had made it through some really tough stuff in my life. And so at that point in my life, I decided to rely on my faith, God, my vision of what I wanted to happen, breathing, all these things. And also, yes, my doctors, my nurses, all that helped without a doubt. I'll rewind a little bit. 2021, I get COVID, I get a bacterial infection that gives me cellulitis. I have these different things happen and I bring it up because it could have been a contributor to GBS. We don't know. I start losing feeling in my hands and my feet. That starts ascending within a couple days up to my knees. And then I wake up one morning and I can't see, I can't read my phone, and I can't pee. And not to get, crude, but I can't urinate anymore.
Mhm.
I tell my wife that, and she insists that I go to the doctor that day. My gosh. I don't even really talk about this. I've been on other podcasts. I don't really ever know if I brought this up. But Jesus Louise, before we make it to the doctor, I end up fainting in my kitchen in front of my family, my kids, everything. The fire department gets called and they come and bring me back. I get consciousness before they come, but they put me a bunch of fluids in me and everything. And that was from me doing too much. Like I always had this mentality to do more, to do more, to do more. I didn't have balance. I'm still working on balance. So that whole thing happens. We end up going to the hospital. They give me tests at the doctor's office. They're like, you might have GBS, this rare autoimmune disorder. You're going to go to the hospital. They're going to do a spinal tap to find out if you have it.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they do that, I am so weak and regressing so rapidly that they have to put me in a wheelchair. I can't shake anybody's hand. I can't stand. I've lost literally all my mobility and strength. They put me up in the ICU before the test results even come back if I have GBS because they can't risk that it'll shut off my heart and lungs and continue to send up my body. So they have respiratory assistants on standby. They have doctors on standby.
Do you
and I end up
remember
coming
what
back.
time frame this is from when?
So when I go, great question. When I go into the emergency room and they test me with a spinal tap,
Mhm.
to the time I'm in the ICU on the 6th floor, 45 minutes.
So within 45 minutes, this thing has progressed so quickly that they're worried that it's going to affect your lungs and heart and shut them down, paralyze them,
Yes.
effectively killing you.
Yes.
And at this point, you don't have the strength to move.
It's all going so quickly. It's crazy.
And just to put a little context on this, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just to put a little context for our listeners and viewers, John was a bodybuilder at one point in his life. What, at your heaviest competing weight, what were you?
So the heaviest I ever competed with was right around 200. The heaviest I ever was about 222 in the off season.
And what are you benching and squatting at this point in your life?
Are you ready for my Al Bundy moment?
Yes.
I don't know if anybody knows
I've read it in the book. Bring it on.
But I'll go way back. This is before I got GBS, but the strongest I had ever been, and I never took any enhancements. I never took any steroids in my life. I bench pressed incline bench 405 for a single rep. and I squatted 500. I would do 405 like 15 times. But by the time I was older and got GBS, I didn't bench press anymore, but I was still pretty strong.
Okay. So, all right. So contextually now, all right, I can only imagine having known that you were capable of doing that at one point in your life. You're a trainer, you are a physical guy, your identity is physicality.
Yep.
And now you can't move. And the doctors are telling you that this thing that you have you never heard of before it's waging war on your body. And it could literally end your life in the next handful of minutes.
Yeah.
Where are you mentally at this point?
So mentally, I tried to bring it all down. I think that, and what I mean by down, I've tried to make it small. I mean, there's a lot going on. You're getting in a wheelchair and you're going through past all these rooms of other people in different states of distress. And I'm trying to process this. I just left my wife downstairs. She can't even come up to the ICU.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all alone now in a wheelchair. I have an attendant, a nurse wheeling me, who's trying to be as nice as possible, but she doesn't have the answers.
Right.
And so I just try to bring this all down to my mentality really quickly. And I start thinking in my mind, like doing meditation and what I was thinking was, I don't know what this is, but this is not the last chapter of my story. It can't be. And I never let my mind go to that dark place. Not once was I ever thinking that this would be it. I had put it in my mind that I don't know how. I don't know how. I know the why because I got my family, my kids, and everything else. And that shit is a strong pull.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how I'm going to get out of here, but I will weave a way out of here. I will weave like whatever it takes, I'm going to get out of here. That's my mentality the whole time. So they put me in the room. One positive thing was that I was in isolation. It may seem like a negative, but it was a positive for me because COVID was going on at that time and everything. And they had me in isolation. So I didn't have to worry about considering what I was doing was affecting anybody else negatively. I had a room to myself. So I immediately started playing music that inspires me because I needed to fill my room with something positive.
Yeah.
You got the sounds, you shared your story with me. Like what goes on in a hospital is not always the best for your soul, right?
Yeah.
Pains and screaming and every agony. And so I was like, man, I got Bob Marley, I got Ziggy Marley, I got all these things that nourish me. And I was playing it and I said, you will have to shoot me if you want me to shut that off. I'm sorry. So I had that. I had my prayer. I had my meditations. And then my wife was so smart to go, we can't live on this hospital food of chicken fingers and French fries and peas that have been underneath the heat lamp since Thursday and it's Saturday. So she started pureeing organic foods for me. And I couldn't swallow whole foods anymore. So I had to drink everything. I had lost my ability to swallow. And so she started nourishing me on a cellular level. I was getting nourished on a spiritual level. Mm-hmm. And I was getting nourished on an environmental level through music. And I was just continuing in my thoughts of like, okay, I was envisioning, people are going to think I'm crazy, but I was envisioning my body and my cells healing themselves. And like, I was asking them politely to start repairing themselves. And then I was asking a little bit firmer and until I was like demanding in my mind, like, you have got to start repairing yourselves. And I know people think it's crazy, but if it didn't do anything, Ian, it kept my mind from going to a place of negativity and going, why is this happening to me?
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to visualize. And when I say envision, I'm talking about not just seeing, but also having the emotional attachment to how you're feeling while you're visualizing the future that you want to see. For me, it was huge. That was something that, in my instance, being in the hospital, like there's nothing else to do. I need to fill my time with something. So I would visualize what it would be like to regain the ability to walk again and be able to run again and use my legs again. And that is such a huge part of healing and manifesting, which may sound woo-woo to a lot of people, but pardon my French, that shit is real.
Yes.
right?
We're
Like
here, dude.
it works, right? And for you to have the wherewithal to surround yourself with all of these positive things, for me, I truly believe that positive thoughts yield positive outcomes. And when you're nourishing your body with healthy foods and you said nourishing your soul and nourishing your environment, I mean, you created like the perfect storm for you to heal, which is that what happened?
Yeah. Now, can I ask a question on your end? Because I don't
Please.
remember remind me how long you were in the hospital.
About almost 4 weeks, so just about a month.
I'm so soft. I was broken after like 6 days. 10 days seemed so long. You were in for that long. Wow.
It's
That
been
puts
for
a
a
whole
while.
nother spin on it, brother.
Well, but as you have mentioned, you grow through what you go through,
Yeah.
right? Resilience. And I was smiling while you were saying this because I truly believe this, that resilience, it's not about bouncing back. It's about looking back and seeing all of those past wins that you've had in your life, which then paint the picture of how strong you truly are. So now instead of bouncing back, you're bouncing forward because now you have put your own wind in your sails by looking back at all of those things that you've achieved up to this point in your life. And when you take the time, when you stop and you look back and you can say, holy shit, wow, yeah, I did that. I accomplished that. That was a hard time in my life. I made it through. That's going to give you the strength. That's going to give you the power. That's going to give you the wherewithal to handle the next adversity that comes in your life. For me, that is the definition of resilience. It's like you look back on your past experiences and you're like, wow, I can do this because I've done it before. It's been maybe in a different environment, different season, different situation, but I've been here before. I've been up against it before. And for you, reading your story, you had been in that situation many times before.
What are your thoughts on this? Because we are never like in the same situation twice, right? Everything is just unique.
Mhm.
But what we do bring with us is hopefully new set of knowledge and techniques, right? I had so much more to prepare me at that stage of my life than I did at 18, that I did at 25, that I did at 35.
Mhm.
So yes, this might have been the biggest mountain I had to climb. And who knows, God willing or whatever, there may be some other challenge that I can't foresee right now. But that's why I think it's so important to I'm always trying to listen to something new, like a podcast like yours, or I'm trying to educate myself. So the next time we go into battle with different tools.
Yes, that's for me what I liken it to a metaphysical backpack. And every time that you are able to overcome an obstacle or break through adversity, you have now created a tool. Could be physical, could be emotional, could be spiritual, whatever you used in that moment to help you cross that hurdle, you have now created that and you take it with you. You put it in your metaphysical backpack. And the next time adversity comes, which we know it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when, you've collected all of these tools throughout your life that you can now pull out of your metaphysical backpack and go to work on this next obstacle. And who knows, you might create a whole new tool
Yep.
that you get to use after you defeat this obstacle in front of you.
And you know what else you pull out of your backpack, my man? Is if along the way you were carrying and you tried to lift the other boats as you were getting lifted, you're going to pull a team of people out that are going to be there to support you. And that's what I had at this point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I came out, I coded in the hospital where they took me in for an MRI and I went unconscious. And my wife was in my room at that moment. And so she knows it's me. I just left. And so every doctor's running to me. And there were some tough times, right? But when I came out of that hospital and while I was in there, my family had support from family, from friends, from neighbors, because we had taken the time to care for them in some capacity, even if it was a small thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they surrounded or around us. One of the most touching moments of my life was Christmas Eve after I'd come out. At that point, I had progressed from the wheelchair to the walker. and we get a knock on our door on Christmas Eve. And once again, there aren't many knocks on the doors anymore these days. And we go, and it's my clients and it's the neighborhood, and they've come to sing Christmas carols for our family.
That's great.
And my kids are there just overwhelmed. And I just had tears running down my face. And to see them just take the care to do that and to embrace them and in some of the lowest parts of my life now fuels me so much of who I am at this moment sitting here, that I want to pay it forward and be there for people, because I owe so many people that have helped me, from the criminal justice professor to my Uncle Jimmy to the people singing Christmas carols. I am who I am because of them. And I need to make sure I take care and intentional actions to continue to maybe be a little spark in somebody else's life that may be going through a tough time. Because just as we can have, a news cycle or a negative action take everybody to that place, we need to create that current in positivity. We need to create that current in being helpful and caring. And so I'm so conscious about doing that at this part of my life, because earlier in my 20s, you read, man, I was very selfish, and I need to, make sure that this is the chapter of my life where I help the most people.
Well, you are definitely doing it with your message and your book and your speaking. And man, I could go on talking to you for hours, John, but I want to kind of wrap this up with letting people know that I really believe you need to go out and get this book. You have to go out and get John's book. I mean, we have scratched the surface of your story, and there are so many, what I like to call pearls of wisdom, that are in your words in this book. And I think that the more people that read it, the more people that talk about it, the more that you share it, again, you are sharing that light. You're creating that current. You are that positive ripple that we need in the society. So you are an incredible human being, and I want to thank you for being on the show. And I want to let our listeners and our viewers know, where can they find out more about John Petrelli?
First, thank you, Ian. I want to thank you for bringing me on, for being such a great host and inviting me on here, for sharing this message. I want to put this out to your listeners because maybe they can solve this. There's one thing that I haven't been able to solve, and you can help in this too in my life, is, as you said, I did some modeling, and I did a Dolce & Gabbana campaign with Gisele Bündchen, who used to be Tom Brady's wife.
Yeah.
The one thing I can't figure out is, how did I age so much since then, and she looks identical to how she was back in the day?
Must be the genes, John. It's gotta be the genes.
All kidding aside, is you can, I'm on Instagram, on John Petrelli, LinkedIn, all those things. And I put this out there, and I do this not as a jest, but as a wholehearted fact. I love to dedicate and donate some of my time to the people that affected me the most in my life. And that's been educators, that has been law enforcement, that's been our protectors and our firemen, our teachers, all that. And if somebody hears this and you think that it would be a benefit for me to come, especially for our caregivers in the hospital, like the people that took care of me, I would donate time to come and talk, to come and do a lecture, no cost. I can't do it for everybody, but I try to do 1 or 2 a year where I go and I donate my time just as a little payback. So if you're watching this and you're inspired by any part of this, or you think I could be a little tool key to help you guys out of my pocket, I'll come and do that. You can find me on all social media. And once again, I forgot the question you asked, because I just never stop talking, apparently. Ask my wife and she'll tell you.
You covered it right there. Again, amazing human being. John, thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers for joining us. And always, how we wrap this up is, remember, stay positive, stay persistent, and know that mindset is everything. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Positive Persistence family. We're having a great time creating this content, and we truly hope it inspires you to embrace positivity and persistence in your own journey. If this podcast episode inspired you or entertained you, scroll down, hit those stars, and leave a comment or two. Your 5-star reviews and shares encourage us and help us grow the show. So until next time, stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything.